Christmas Eve, all YouTube viewers. How are y'all doing on this lovely Christmas Eve Friday? This is you, as you know, Kent Wayne, and welcome to Kent Wayne Entertainments. So, I just want to talk to you guys about the Hawkeye series that just ended this week, season finale. Want to give you guys my tips, reviews, what do I think about it, and also a little background history of Hawkeye along with Kate Bishop. So let's go ahead and get started on that. So, I just finished watching Hawkeye, and I must say it was great. Hawkeye was great, well-grounded character. I like the old idea of centering it around Christmas. Got to have the theme in it. It was a nice little setup to what happened to the Barton family after Endgame. Now, for those who don't remember, Hawkeye was that one character that didn't really get that much shine within the MCU. He's only appeared in, I would say, 5 or maybe 6 movies. He cameoed in Thor, the first Thor movie back in 2011. He also appeared in the first Avengers movie. Then it was the second Avengers movie, which was Age of Ultron. Then it was Captain America Civil War. He didn't show up in Infinity War, but he did show up in Endgame. So that was mostly 5 movies he showed up in. I don't know why I said 6. I thought it was 6, but it was really 5. But he showed up in 5 movies. And each of those, it was kind of like a character build up for Hawkeye. We see this guy, we don't really know much about Clint. We all know he was a SHIELD agent in his earlier days. We know he had some history with Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, as was it said in the Black Widow solo movie. Not much was said about Hawkeye's character except he got brainwashed in the first movie, but he ended up turning around and being part of a group of ragtag individuals who, what some people say, a bunch of, full of a team of gods and monsters. Hawkeye was always that one character that was like pretty much normal compared to everyone else, including Black Widow. I mean, you got Captain America, Super Soldier, Iron Man, tech genius, billionaire. You also have a literal god named Thor, and then not to mention you have a guy who turns into a big green raging monster. There was not much for Hawkeye to get it developed. We were hoping that he would get a solo movie, kind of like Black Widow back in the earlier days of the MCU. But I guess nobody didn't really want a Hawkeye movie, or let alone, what was going on in Hawkeye's world. We did later know that Hawkeye had a family in Age of Ultron after the battle with Hulk and the Iron Man Hulkbuster. We noticed that he had a loving wife. He had 2 kids, going on 3 kids now, living on a farm. I guess it was something that Fury set up for Barton to keep his family and loved ones away from the things that he was doing. Kind of like a little hideout area, but it's also being monitored by S.H.I.E.L.D. So during the events of Civil War, Hawkeye was part of Team Cap, who wasn't really a part of the Sokovian Accords, which was mostly Iron Man's team was doing. So he decided to be part of that, but because he was abetting a known criminal, he ended up getting locked up along with Falcon and Wanda, and also Ant-Man. So after that movie Civil War, Cap broke him out, but he also made a deal to where he wanted to be with his family, so they put him on house arrest. As you can see in the beginning of Endgame, we saw him with an ankle monitor. So, he just wanted to spend time with his family. I guess you could say he kind of retired with the Hawkeye thing. He just wanted to, be a family man. All that changed during the events of Infinity War when Thanos snapped his fingers and wiped out all life of the universe. And one of those casualties would have to be the Barton family. And knowing what it would have done with Hawkeye from the events of Infinity War up until Endgame, in between that, during the 5-year blip, Hawkeye took on the new persona called the Ronin, which was kind of gave me a little bit of vibes of the first season of Arrow, where it was just, a hooded guy going around killing people, putting arrows in them, except, instead of, Clint using his signature bow and arrow, he was actually using a sword. We don't really know much of how he was well trained with the sword, of course, but we know that he was he was part of a dangerous organization, which was hired by I'm gonna get to that point. I didn't want to go too far ahead of me, but in the series of Hawkeye, it mostly takes place 2 years after Endgame, after Hulk brought everyone back, including Barton's family. Of course, the Avengers kind of haven't been the same since then. Hawkeye, we see him going to an opera with his family, but we noticed that his kids was trying to get his attention, but I guess we noticed that he had an earpiece in his ear. So, if for those who don't know, in the comics, Hawkeye was deaf. All the battles he did over his time as Hawkeye kind of pretty much damaged his eardrums to a point where he had to have a hearing aid. So we noticed that Hawkeye was wearing a hearing aid going to an opera. But we also noticed of a new character in the team show called Kate Bishop. And Kate Bishop is going to take on the new moniker of Hawkeye. And for those who don't know, Kate Bishop was a little girl. In the beginning of the show, she witnessed Hawkeye's bravery during the fight in New York back in 2012. And ever since then, Hawkeye has been her favorite Avenger, which, mad respect. You don't really see a lot of people being fans of a normal Avenger, but because with someone that doesn't have powers, he just uses bow and arrow, and then was brave enough to go up against beings like that, shows that he's a true hero. So, throughout the time, Kate spent her years, training as an archer to be just like Hawkeye. And to a point where she was really good enough to actually hit a bell, but also destroyed it. So, her mom is actually rich. She owns a security company. So you could tell that by that she lived a lavish lifestyle, but also sometimes gets herself into trouble from time to time. She goes to an auction to where they were auctioning things that came from Avengers compound, one being Ronan's sword and Ronan's outfit. Kate Bishop takes the Ronan outfit away, but because of that, it also put a target on her head, which also gave her the notice of Clint Barton realizing that someone is going around putting on the Ronin costume. We also know that they also adopted a dog named Lucky, who a one-eyed dog. Of course, he's in the comics as well. We also know that, Hawkeye and Kate didn't really have such a good relationship in the beginning. It's almost as if Clint wanted her to not walk into his footsteps of being an Avenger, let alone Hawkeye. He tried to tell her that she's not ready for that, or she's just too young. She shouldn't be getting into trouble. But, later on throughout the series, we noticed that they, take their time to build up that relationship that the two have. It's kind of like a Ellie and Joel moment. If you notice, a lot of media is starting to do with the father figure and a daughter figure, So the whole series was pretty good. I like the fact that it mostly did focus on Clint because, again, Clint didn't really get that much time within the MCU. He's only been part of team movies. We never really got to see him in like a solo movie, kind of like Black Widow. But it was nice. We also know that Clint is also dealing with the tragic loss of Natasha Romanoff, as you see in the series. Like, he felt like he lost his best friend, the one person that truly understood Hawkeye and knew much about him than the Avengers mostly did as well. It took a heavy toll on him, which is why he didn't want to lose anyone. He wanted to go spend time with his family, but realized that the Ronin outfit was being taken by a young girl, so it kind of put him at ease. Also had to go into this conspiracy theory about what was going on. We also get to see the return of Yelena Belova, who's also in the solo Black Widow movie, Natasha's sister. She shows up and tries to kill Hawkeye because if anyone doesn't remember in that post-credit scene in the end of Black Widow, a lady came to Yelena at Natasha's grave and told her who was responsible for killing Natasha, and she showed a picture of Clint aiming Yelena into going to kill Clint because she thinks that he was responsible for killing Hawkeye. I mean, Black Widow, not Hawkeye. I'm sorry, guys. But we see her again. We saw a little banter between her and Kate. It was almost kind of like Natasha and Yelena in a solo movie. Like, they kind of go back and forth. Yelena, being herself as usual, but also on a mission trying to go find Hawkeye. We also get introduced to this character, Echo, who is also deaf as well. Her father was killed by the Ronin, and she was out trying to find the man responsible who killed her father, but didn't realize that the person that killed her father was also the guy she had held hostage, and I believe in the second or third episode of the show. So we later find out that, Hawkeye donned the costume again and fought Echo, and he tried to convince Echo that he was hired to kill her father by a man called the Kingpin, which later we find out that the same Kingpin was also the same one that was in the Daredevil Netflix series. So we get to see that little tad bit right there. We noticed that he was the one responsible for getting Echo's father killed, and also the one that hired Ronan to kill him. So that kind of spurred the moment of Echo wanting to get revenge for her father. It's also like a revenge kind of thing. We also seen at the last episode that Kate and Clint finally decided to work together to take down this group of enemies that was working for the Kingpin. We also realized that Kate's mother was also responsible for a murder that she tried to cover up and also try to frame her future fiance / husband. But later we find out that Kate was spying on her, talking to the Kingpin of what was going on, and her mother ended up getting arrested. We also see that Echo confronted Kingpin again in the alleyway after his battle with Kate, which, by the way, he was just tossing her around. You can't go up against a mob boss like Kingpin. He's very tough. He's almost equivalent to Tobias Whale from DC. If anyone doesn't know who Tobias Whale is, he was from the Black Lightning series, but this isn't about that show. But Echo, we only see a far off shot of gunshot, which we indicate that Echo shot the Kingpin, but we all know the Kingpin isn't dead. It's just one of those like mysteries, like did she kill him? Which we all know he didn't. We all know she didn't. But we later, at the end of the show, Kate finally realized what she wants to do, and Hawkeye welcomes her to the Barton farm for Christmas because her mother is now in jail, so she doesn't have anybody. But they finally decide to welcome her into the family, and also the fact that Hawkeye asked Kate to come outside for them to burn the Ronin costume as a way of letting go of the past sins that he committed and know that the Ronin is no longer with us anymore. Is more like, all right, it's time for you to say goodbye. So that show, this Disney show was a lot different from the previous Disney Plus shows that we've had. We thought that Falcon and the Winter Soldier was more grounded, but this show was well grounded and it only focused on just Hawkeye and Kate. It's a nice little tad bit to it. I would honestly say out of all the 5 Disney Plus shows that we've had so far, it's not like the best, but it's not the worst either. It's one of those, it was a great show, especially around this time of the holiday where you just want to enjoy the moment of Christmas. But again, Hawkeye was a very good show. I'm glad that he was able to get the time he needed because, again, he did not get the time like that within the MCU. And I would like to see where they tend to go forward with the Kate character, whether we're going to see Clint Barton finally retire as Hawkeye and giving that mantle to Kate Bishop, because as anyone has not been paying attention, it seems like the MCU is forming their new team of Avengers, but it's going to focus on more of the young Avengers, in my opinion. Young Avengers / new Avengers. But again, it was a great show. I like how it all tied in with what happened after Endgame. We got to see more of Barton's family. We see the development of him finally letting people in after losing Natasha, because he didn't want what happened to Natasha to happen to Kate. Yelena finally forgave. It seemed like Yelena finally understood that Hawkeye was not responsible for her death and came to realize that Natasha did what she did, because Natasha is well known to being the one to always go out and do the hard stuff because it's Natasha. So those two reconcile, and it seemed like she was giving false information of who killed her sister. So we don't see Yelena no more, but we hope to see her again in another solo Black Widow movie or another team-up movie. She was well played. Again, I don't know where they tend to take this in the next, if they were to renew a second season. But again, it was a great show, and I hope you guys was able to see it as well. It's one of those kind of shows that it's not too much going on, but it's not like boring either. It's more of a build-up. But again, I just want to give my review on the show will be mostly an 8 out of 10. 7.9, 8 out of 10. I'll give that as a show. But again, it's a great show. I want everyone to go out and watch it. Also, I hope everyone has a wonderful Christmas and also a Happy New Year. As you know, this is your boy Kent Wayne. If you got any comments, leave it down below. Also, subscribe if you want to watch more videos, and I'll be with you again later.